Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the intro of episode 30 of the Let's Talk Weekly podcast. Our special guest today is Jamie Broadnax, the creator of Black Girl Nerds. First off, I want to say a very special thank you to Jamie for joining us on this episode to discuss Black Girl Nerds and everything geekdom. This episode was recorded in August of 2015, so some of the things that you all will hear, such as our discussion of Season 3 of Arrow, Season 1 of The Flash, was everything before the shows came back for Season 2 and Season 4 in the fall. So, with that being said, I now want to turn things over to Akilah with the actual intro for the episode. Enjoy.
Good evening, listeners. Let's Talk Weekly listeners. How are you doing today? Today is a very, very, very important episode. This is episode 30. And we have a very important guest today, which will be Jamie from Black Girl Nerd. So I hope you guys stay tuned and keep listening. All right? Love you. Hold up. Rewind. Woo. Besides speaking with Jamie tonight, we have our lovely co-host, of course, me, Akilah, aka Minty Kid. And we also have David and Jamila. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
What up? Are you guys ready for tonight? This is gonna be great. Fast forward, listen, and stay tuned, guys. Love you guys.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Weekly podcast.
Well, good evening, Let's Talk Weekly listeners. Today is going to be a very special podcast. We have a guest that, is contributing a lot to the Black nerd community, and we have Jamie from Black Girl Nerd. Say hi to everybody, Jamie.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on.
And, of course, we have our wonderful host, David, online with us. Hi. Say hello to everybody, David.
Hi, everybody.
So today is going to be a really interesting podcast, getting to know more about Black Girl Nerd, and of course, geeking out and having a great time. So let's get things started. Jamie, can you tell me a little bit more about Black Girl Nerd? Because we did read over your synopsis about how everything got started, but I kind of want to get your more perspective of how you became like a well-known blogger within the Black nerd community.
Yeah, so Black Girl Nerds is an online community that focuses on Black women and women of color in the geek and nerd subculture. So it started off 3 years ago, back in February. I one night was just on Google and I was looking for content on the web that spoke to women of my ilk. A year prior to that, I had a Facebook account with a Facebook fan page, rather, called Black Girl Nerds, just because I saw people with these random fan pages on Facebook, and I just thought it'd really be cool to just have a Facebook page with that name and see if people will like it. So that was really my only purpose for having the page. And then as the likes started growing, I thought, wow, okay, this is interesting. So fast forward to 2012, 3 years ago, when I Googled the term Black Girl Nerds, nothing came up on the interwebs. Black girl came up, girl nerds came up, Black nerds came up, but the term Black Girl Nerds didn't. And it was at that point that I realized this is a little bit of a problem. I can find nerd culture with respect to women and men everywhere on the web, but when it comes to Black women, I just don't see it. So I had blogger experience. I had a blogger account at the time. So I just went ahead that night and published a blog with that title to really just put it on the web that there are sites and there's content out there that speak to women like us. And I titled it Black Girl Nerds just for that reason. And SEO wise, I'm like, wow, that was pretty genius. But yeah, that's really how it started, and the popularity just grew because of me being a total obsessive compulsive geek when it comes to social media. I love social media. I'm on it incessantly. I mean, as I'm talking to you guys right now, I'm on Twitter. So spending tons and tons of time on Twitter, on Facebook, sharing, engaging with audience, engaging with my audience, engaging with followers. It's what helped to build it to where I guess I'm quote unquote popular on social media. But most importantly, it's a way to be relevant, to have a presence, and also get feedback from people that are interested in this site to see what they want to see more of, or what kind of topics speak to them. So I use it as a tool for several reasons, but the build was definitely based off of the work that I did on social media.
Okay, I really like that because, as me being a Black girl nerd, and especially growing up with the whole stigma of, you're a nerd and you're a girl and you like that and you're Black, like it's kind of like, oh my God, you're a rare gem. So when I came across you through a retweet from a friend, I was like, oh, Black girl nerd, this is interesting. This is something I can join and follow up what's going on. And I kind of like that movement going on because it shows that other people, like girls and Black girls themselves, do like comic books, cosplay, anime, and all that kind of nerdy, geeky things. So I really like this whole blog site that you're really doing, and I love that it's really popular among social media. Now, regarding to it, do you just get mostly female fans, or you have like a good mixture between?
It's a good mixture, believe it or not. I don't know what the specific stats are with demographics of men to women and race wise, but there's a good mix of men that love the site, a good mix of non-Black people that like the site. And it's because, first of all, I have a mission statement up there. I thought that there was a need to put something out there to let folks know that, look, this is not a space that's exclusively for Black women. It's not like a secret club and you can't come if you're not Black, you're not female. That's not what it's about, because I don't want to be a hypocrite and marginalize other people when I myself am marginalized all day, every day as a Black woman. So I put that out there saying that it's not exclusive, and people get it. That's why we have so many followers that are of all different backgrounds and that aren't all women, because they know that this is a community that is very inclusive and that will be willing to embrace them, and that they don't feel like they're, being pushed aside or dismissed because they just don't happen to be the right gender and the right race. So yeah, it's a very great inclusive community, and I'm very proud to be a part of that.
I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it's a good mixture, because I did see that through, because I do follow you a lot through your Twitter, because I'm always on Twitter, just like you have like tons of social medias. It's crazy. But when I do really like your live tweets, I don't watch all your shows that you watch, but I see that you have different retweets from males and females. So I find that interesting when it's titled Black Girl Nerds, but males themselves, follow it anyways, because I guess they like what you express in your opinions of regarding to anything within the nerddom of anything nerd. So I really like that type of mix going on, with the whole not having that negative stigma where it's just Black girl and nerds, that's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But overall, the contents on your page, I see that you have a mixture from comic books. Do you have like a certain type of fandom that you kind of gear towards, like just mostly comic books or anything like that?
Well, you're seeing a lot of comic book content on there now, because I had just left San Diego Comic Con this past month. So I'm doing a couple of series. One is a try a new comic book series, and also I'm doing the Comic Creators You Should Know series. So there is a lot of comic book content, but Black Girl Nerds is filled with a hodgepodge of all type of things that speak to us. It's not just about comics. We talk about science fiction, fantasy. We talk about music, natural hair, social justice issues, health and wellness. I mean, it is your, when you think about it, your typical magazine lifestyle kind of website that is all encompassing of so many things that make us who we are. But it is spoken from a POV of women of color who are self-declared nerds. And I'm glad that it's that way. I don't want it to be just this, one-dimensional monolith where we're just talking about comic books all day or we're just talking about video games all day. I want it to speak to so many different things and appeal to all different kinds of fans so that folks can find a space for them. They can see, oh, okay, this group is into roller derby or this group is into anime. And that way it can be, it can mean so many different things to so many kinds of people. So that's really what this is all about.
Yeah, I get that vibe from your site when I was browsing through it and I was looking through some of your articles and stuff. And then I see that you have like a lot of different, like basically self-building for Black women and Black people in the community. And I find that very interesting because it doesn't just, just listed, we're just talking about comic books all day. You can always kind of go there if you want a sense of knowledge or some type of information besides just the nerd anime or any type of fandom community. So I find that really interesting of how your approach of doing the website where it could be very diverse and other people can go to that site for anything events.
Yeah. I mean, diversity is something that I embrace. That is me. Like, I'm not into one thing, and I am the kind of person that gets bored very easily. So I always look for things that are new and unique, and I'm always interested in other cultures, and I'm always interested and willing to open myself to other fandoms. Just recently I started playing with tabletop gaming and digital tabletop gaming and doing Dungeons and Dragons with a group of fellow Black nerds. So I'm always willing to, have fun in different areas of entertainment or be able to take on new hobbies because that's just something that always appeals to me. I don't want to just stick with the whole same monotonous, boring things that for some people that might be, if comic books is your thing and that's all that you're into, that's great. Or movie reviews is just your thing, that's great. But I like to dibble and dabble in different things, and the website reflects that because that's my vision. Just as a person, those are the things that I like to do. I like to get involved in different things, and also I can't take 100% credit because it's not just me writing the content on the site. I have 16 contributors and several guest bloggers that also contribute their opinions, their thoughts, their ideas that allow this site to be so incredibly diverse. So really, they deserve all of the credit for Black Girl Nerds being this space. Just represents so many different fandoms because I don't watch anime and I don't watch Doctor Who. So I know. So I have contributors that are Whovians and I have contributors that are fans, and they are able to, write articles and op-eds on those kind of fandoms, which is great because I would never be able to do that.
Oh gosh, that kind of hurt me because I'm a huge anime fan. That's my nerd passion there with anime, a little bit of comic books and K-pop. So I'm like, I
do listen to K-pop.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I love K-pop and I do love K-dramas as well.
We'll be best friends. But Jamie, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, if you, I don't know if you want to reveal where you are, but a little bit about yourself. So people background about you.
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, people pretty much know, and it's all in my Twitter profile as well. But I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. That's currently where I reside. Um, and do you want to know like my life story or?
Sure.
um,
Well,
I
well, basically, because okay, let's generalize this. Since you have a black, you're a nerd just like me. What are
uh-huh.
your passion fandoms? Like, what is your true passion of a fandom? Like, is it comic books? Is it a particular show? Are you a K-pop fan of a group or whatever? What is your passion of nerd?
My passion is social media and television and film, mostly on the side of TV. So I used to actually run a film blog several years ago and used to just write movie reviews. But now with the whole live tweeting that I've been doing a lot within the last few years, TV is just something that I love watching and commenting on. I don't really do TV reviews a lot, even though I just started doing TV reviews recently. And Mr. Robot's the exception because I watch that show constantly. Like when I say constantly, I watch like 3 or 4 times one episode each because I want to make sure I get every detail absorbed. But yeah, I watch a lot of television and I'm on social media a lot. I do love comic books. Comic books have been a passion of mine since I was 10 years old. Grew up on Marvel. So that's something that I'm really a big fan of. But those would be the big two for me is being a TV junkie and being a social media geek.
Oh, okay, so that's your little part of yourself. Um, I know you mentioned before that you have blogging background. Where did you get the blogging background? Was it through school or did you just pick up on your own saying like, yeah, I'm going to start my own blog? And did where do you get like that source from?
Oh, well, I started blogging in 2006, I think it was. Um, I used to I used to live in New York City and I worked at a student loan company, and we had a lot of downtime during the summer months, as you can imagine. So while I was working with a friend of mine who was also a budding screenwriter, we would be at work just bored reading other blogs. So we were fans of like Perez Hilton's website and Delisted and Young Black and Fabulous and Media Takeout. And while we're reading all these blogs, we were just like, we should create our own blog. And NY Indie Scene was my very first blog, and it was just this snarky, mean blog where we just talked about celebrities, but we also did a lot of movie reviews. And then it evolved into a space that was actually positive for independent filmmakers. So, which is kind of there's some foreshadowing there because essentially what I did in that space was I created a space for marginalized filmmakers that didn't really have a platform, that didn't really have a voice, to have their works seen and heard. And that's what I started doing when I lived in New York. And it actually allowed me to have a lot of great opportunities. I worked with the Tribeca Film Festival and Big Apple Film Festival and Gotham Film Festivals and just did a lot of press coverage, had a chance to interview celebrities. So it was a great time to just be able to be creative, watch lots of movies, do what I love, and to be able to meet some really cool people along the way. So that's how I started blogging, and I had been doing it off and on since that time.
Okay,
And
that's great.
everything was self. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but everything was self taught. I didn't go to school for it. I went to Google. Google was my university. I went on Google to find out how do you set up a blog, what platforms are the best ones to use. I first used Blogger, just because I went to Google and that's what Google does. They want you to go with theirs, so it was Blogger. And from there, I just learned how to do the templates, and I played with code a little bit, and just went from there. So Yeah. Self-taught and being bored is what got me to be a blogger.
Oh my gosh! So if you basically put your mind to it, and just put a lot of dedication, you could just get to where you can be right now.
Yeah. Yep.
Because one thing I really thought from like reading your stuff, Jamie, and like following along and stuff on Twitter, I really thought you had a journalism background.
Yeah, well, I have a communications background.
Okay.
So my Bachelor of Science is in mass communications.
Okay.
And then I like to read a lot. So the more you read, the better of a writer you can be. But yeah, thank you for that. I find that to be a compliment that you think I have a journalism background. So yeah, that's been my background.
Okay.
I'm curious, Jamie. Those blog sites that you this because I know you started one in New York, and from what I was reading in your background, you started another one at another place. Are those still up and running, or did they just kind of stop because you left?
Yeah, they've stopped. So when I left New York, I moved to back home to Virginia, and I created a site called VA Indie Scene. So it was a takeoff of the NY Indie Scene site. It was just Virginia, and then I moved to North Carolina and created NC Indie Scene. And NC Indie Scene was great because North Carolina, I lived in Wilmington for 3 years, and Wilmington is like little Hollywood East. They've done a lot of films there. Sleepy Hollow was filmed there. Iron Man 3 was filmed there. So I had the great opportunity when I did run that website to meet Ava DuVernay, who now we know as the director of Selma, because of that website. So, and I was able to cover a lot of film festivals in that area. So yeah, I moved every time I did a move, then I'd change the website name to, Indie Scene. But they're now just sitting there. I haven't done much with the sites just because I'm so involved with BGN. It's massive at this point, and I don't even have time to do most of what I want to do with BGN, let alone working on other blogs.
Okay, because I was kind of curious about that. Because when I read over your background about those sites, I was like, I wonder if they're still going. Because I felt like you had a team. Was it just you by yourself with that?
With the other sites or BGN?
Yeah, the other sites.
No, that was just me. NY Indie Scene, yeah, NY Indie Scene started with myself and my friend Al when it began, but then he kind of stopped and I took over. So a lot of the content you see on NY Indie Scene was curated and written by me. And then VA Indie Scene is all me, and NC Indie Scene is all me.
Wow. I'm rather impressed because especially how you got those blogs to get to that level. How about Black Girl Nerd? That's all you two as well?
No, that is not all me. Black Girl Nerds, when I first started the blog, I would say probably within 24 to 48 hours, I got an email from Amaya Rajani, who is a loyal contributor and has been with me since the beginning. She's a published author. And she had emailed me and said, I see your site, Black Girl Nerds. I like it. I want to write it. I want to write with you on it. And she started submitting articles to me. And at that point, I was like, this is amazing. That already within 48 hours, I have somebody that's a published author that's like legit, a legit writer on the site. So it started off as a team and it built and built from there. And I'm so grateful because this space would not be that interesting if it was just me talking about whatever, whether I'm ranting and raving or, doing any sort of think pieces or writing reviews or what have you. But I'm so grateful to have a team of women that are just so talented, are incredible writers, and are very transparent and real with their opinions on whatever topic it is that they're talking about.
Yeah, I see that because you have like a long list of contributors. So do you have like regular guests or regular people who follow you on Twitter just saying, hey, Jamie, I want to submit an article. Can I submit an article for the site? Or you do have like a set requirement for your articles submitted?
I do have a requirement. It's very lax. I mean, it's not a rigid requirement, but people will tweet to me when I'm on Twitter saying, hey, I'd like to contribute to your site. How can I go about it? And I say, hey, just email me. And I get emails constantly of folks that are interested in writing for BGN. So as far as the rules go, you don't really have to have a whole lot of writing experience. You don't have to be a blogger or be published author or what have you. You just have to be someone who is interested in this space, that feel that your words and your voice will have some value in this space. And that's really, all that I require. And, just sort of the basic things that really go without saying, like no cursing and no dropping N-bombs or things like that. But aside from that, it's a pretty relaxed environment.
Okay, I like that. So besides do you have another favorite contributor on the site, or just that one author that you have constantly posting for you?
I have a large group of contributors, so I don't want to narrow it down to one person. Everybody is really good. Like, I will say this. I really love the contributors that write articles about their experiences with their relationships and dating, or if they're having issues with dealing with their identity. Whether they're talking about an article where they feel like they've been marginalized by white nerds, or they feel like by Black people, oh, well, I act too white, or I talk white, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the authors that actually use those kinds, or write those kinds of topics, more than just writing about a comic book review or a TV show recap, or, something that's about pop culture. Like, I think the kinds of articles that are so transparent and real and that resonate with you are the ones that I love the most. And, believe it or not, those are the ones that actually get the most penetration. Those are the ones that get the most traffic and people share and like and, reblog on Tumblr or what have you. Those are the ones that are very popular, because these are real, discussions that people are having in the form of a blog post. So, yeah.
Now that leads into a really, really good point. So to me, how do you feel about being like the source of, like, a place for the voice of Black nerds to be able to voice this? How do you feel about being a role model to these people? Like someone who can, they could look at you and come to your site and say, hey, I want to put my voice out there because I believe, Jamie started this, and I want to be an ongoing trend with you in the movement of the Black girl nerds.
Yeah, and that's actually a part of my mission statement, is to create your own sites that are like this, and help, make this movement, make this community of being Black and being nerdy to grow and flourish and be relevant. So, yeah, I mean, I just encourage all people to use whatever space they feel comfortable in, whether they want to be a blogger, whether they want to be a podcaster, whether they want to be a social media commentator and build a social media following of folks that listen to you and be an influencer. Whatever it is that you elect to do, I encourage it. And if you are very happy with what you're seeing happening, what you see happening in this space of Black girl nerds, I encourage you to create content that's similar to what I'm doing. Definitely be unique about it, put your own stamp on it. But yeah, absolutely, because we need more spaces that represent Black women and women of color in this subculture,
nerd culture now is actually evolving to not even being a subculture anymore. I mean, it's like mainstream culture at this point. And even though nerd is the new cool, when you go to spaces that are cool, like, for example, San Diego Comic-Con and, all of these big areas and platforms that represent nerd culture, you still don't see a lot of people of color. You still don't see a lot of Black people, and you certainly don't see a lot of Black women. So it's incredibly important to see more Black women creating these spaces, doing these kinds of things, because the more of us that are out there, the higher the demand, and the higher the demand, the more likely we're going to be able to be represented in bigger spaces and see images of us in mainstream media, in magazine, in print, and film, all of that. So yeah, I definitely encourage it.
Because that's how I kind of get the same feeling, especially like recently I just went to a con, because I'm from Florida. I'm sorry, I never told you, but I'm from Florida, all the way in the South. So I just recently went to a con and I cosplayed as Winry from Full Metal Alchemist. This February, there was the Black girl, the Black movement with the cosplaying, and I felt so proud, but there's very scarce amount of Black cosplayers participating in that and going out there with it, being proud and Black to cosplay as something white, and doing it with pride. So I like the Black community shouldn't be afraid to express themselves or feel like they're belittled by, they say white nerds about this is theirs. We love it just as much as you do. Do you feel some type of pressure from this kind of being like a role model or any of the Black nerd community right now?
Wow. I guess I just don't see myself in that role, so I don't think about it, because for me, I just feel like I'm part of everybody else's group, like I feel like I'm with everyone else, and I'm just glad to be along for the ride. I don't see myself as like a leader or someone who's a role model. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing, and I'm very proud of the work that I've done within the last 3 years. But most importantly, I just encourage people, especially Black women, to know that you are not alone, that there are women out there that are just like you, and that's why I created this space, because I really did feel like I was alone in some of the things that I was interested in, and that something was wrong with me, because all of the other women at my jobs and in church or at school were just not into the same kind of fandoms I was into. So when I'm talking about watching Young Justice cartoons, or, I'm talking about reading comic books, or I'm talking about sci-fi television shows, they're talking about, reality TV shows, and talking about, things that just aren't really a part of quote unquote nerd and geek culture. So, having said all that, I would encourage, if there are still people out there that feel like they're, ashamed to call themselves a nerd, or they don't feel like they can't be a part of this space because they have that peer pressure to deal with friends and family, just know that there are websites and podcasters, and cosplayers and anime groups and folks that welcome all kinds of folks into their space, and will be your best friend forever if you love the same fandoms that they do, or if they're into the same fandoms that you are. I just encourage you to just know that those spaces exist, and eventually we are going to see ourselves in larger spaces, and you're going to see more people out there like us that are creating this kind of content on the web, because it's needed. That's the biggest thing that I get when folks to me or email me or write comments on the blog. They're like, thank you for this space, because I can't find other spaces that speak to women like me, and I'm glad that you have this space for Black women. And eventually it's not just going to be me. It's not just going to be 5 other websites. It's not just going to be 10 other websites. There's going to be a plethora of websites out there, and online content creators that's going to have these kinds, of spaces for all of us to be able to enjoy and share.
Yeah, I would really say I really thank you for that, because, well, I'm glad I bumped into your site, because I always felt like I was alone by myself with this. Because, like, for example, at my job, most of the women, like you said, are only into, real, I don't even know the show's names that well. That's how bad I'm not really into it. And so I always felt like I can't really have a conversation like, hey, anime, or yeah, Young Justice, or anything like that. So I can never really connect, except the guys who are apparently into it. So knowing that these spaces are allowed or available or exist, it kind of makes me like, wow, it makes the world smaller for me, and it knows that I'm not alone. And I'm not the only one who's going through this whole ordeal of, yeah, I'm a Black girl who's a nerd who's into this stuff, and I'm not like the average, what they would stereotype as a Black girl should be. So I kind of like that Black girl nerd has this movement for us to feel like we're accepted and type of community together.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we are crushing stereotypes, because that's one of the biggest things I've noticed among us as Black women is we get stereotyped in the worst way. There's a great book by Melissa Harris Perry called Sister Citizen, and she breaks it down to 3 stereotypes: the Jezebel, the Sapphire, and the Mammy stereotype. And if you watch a lot of movies and you see a lot of depiction in the media, Black women are seen as a monolith. Like, there's a very small segment of representation among Black women, and what happens is people get the idea, or the sort of the conception that is how all Black women are, based on a very small sliver, a very small representation of what you see. And that's why I'm very grateful to have this space. I know I keep saying that, but it's very important, because I'm able to talk about topics like Black women in heavy metal music. I wrote an article based off Elena Dawes' book, where she is a music writer and wrote a book about all of these Black women who are heavy metal artists. And I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was so glad to have stumbled onto her, and I invited her on my podcast to talk about it. I did a review of her book. And meeting women like that is important. Meeting a group of role players, Black role players, that are into LARPing, live action role playing, and tabletop gaming, and digital role playing. Like, these are things that I'm going to keep it real. Like, a lot of Black people think, oh, well, Black people aren't into those kind of things. And it's like, no, you need to pump your brakes there for a second. Yes, we are into those kinds of things. So it's important to highlight people that are involved in these things. And then I did a website about coders, about Black people that are into programming and coding and technology and securities. Like, these are groups that have been happening forever, but we just don't highlight them. We don't show them, because sadly, mainstream media and even mainstream Black media thinks it's more interesting and more important to talk about Black people in hip hop music, Black people in sports, all of these things that are sort of a part of this sensationalized entertainment industry, but they're not really talking about Black people that are into these really fun, interesting, and unique hobbies and fandoms and subcultures within a subculture that have been happening for so long. So that's why Black girl nerds exist. That's why there's so many blurred, the portmanteau term for Black nerd, there's so many blurred spaces that are popping up, because it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that Black people were into these things. So it's a great thing to see. And this is a good time. It's a good time to own your identity, own your sense of, your embrace your eccentricities and embrace your own unique sense of your identity, and be proud of it, and just yell it from from the mountaintops. So I'm glad to be in this time.
I really agree, because I am starting to see the movement where a lot of, I say, underground Black nerds are coming to the light because it's now starting to be socially acceptable. And people don't look at them as weird, because everybody wants to be a nerd now, especially with the whole movement with comic book movies and everything. So everybody's like, hey, yeah, it's cool. I can go to cons and not feel weird, or I can go to a comic book store and read comics and not feel weird, because it's starting to be the whole, it's going to be a social norm now, and to be into those type of fandoms, and from comic books to other type of things that people consider nerdy, you know. So I see that, especially in the con life, because I'm really heavy into the con life. From my first year going to SuperCon, for a SuperCon here, it's one of our big cons here, and slowly the count grew bigger, especially every year after a comic book movie comes out, and everybody starts getting into the comic books and getting curious, and they're like wanting to get into the whole world slowly. So the community is growing bigger every day, from just even from white people, including Black people. It's starting to become the social norm.
It is. I mean, I think that it's more than just nerd culture being trendy or being in. I think we are on the cusp of being in a place where people are just, they don't give a damn anymore. People just want to be themselves and not to have to hide behind a mask. And that's why it's now becoming so socially acceptable to be a marginalized person. You know, whether you are gay, or whether you are someone who is disabled, or whether you are someone who is, you know, overweight and you're embracing, you know, being a plus size person. Whatever it is, where in the past that was seen as something that was, you know, to be shunned upon, now you can own that, and you can own that sense of identity and be proud, and, you know, find the beauty in it, and do something with it, and create a space for empowering plus size women, or empowering being, you know, gay, lesbian, or trans, or, you know, whatever it is. I think that that's what is happening right now in our culture, and nerd culture is just sort of a part of many things that we are embracing when it comes to our own sense of identity.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I like that this whole is I feel comfortable now just talking to people about, yeah, hey, I watch Arrow, yeah, I like Flash, I do this.
Hell yeah.
So I feel comfortable doing it. I have no shame in it, and if people look at me weird, I'm like, I bet you guys.
Oh my God. If people, if there's something wrong with people that shame other people for watching Arrow, like, I would look at them as the weird person, or maybe even like what used to be the nerd. Like, I would see them as the nerd if you put other people down for liking Arrow, because Arrow is, like, first of all, one of the best. Well, this last season kind of sucked, but that's neither here nor there. But Arrow's like one of the better comic book shows that are out there. The Flash is one of the best comic book shows out there. So it boggles my mind, and I guess because I'm just so deeply entrenched in this culture, it boggles my mind that there are people that actually put other people down for liking Arrow and or the Flash. Like, I just can't conceptualize that.
And, you know, this really opens the door to a new topic right now, because like I was telling you earlier before, when I really got into your site, and especially on Twitter, because I'm semi-addicted to Twitter, not that much lately, but anytime Eric came on, I was always following you guys with live tweetings. That's where I kind of say, that's where I was passionate about your site, was your social media, is the live tweeting between Arrow and Flash. Like, how do you start all, because I know you come up with your own hashtags for each show that you watch. How do you deliberate those hashtags?
Yeah, the hashtags, well, it first started when I noticed on Twitter, Game of Thrones was being live tweeted, and Rodimus Prime, who does the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, he and his friends did Dim Thrones hashtag for Game of Thrones. And I just thought that was really cool. Like, I was like, I want to start using that kind of hashtag because it's just fun to live tweet with your friends and your family, your Twitter family, Black Twitter, these great shows. So for me with BGN, a lot of the hashtags that I've used have just been from other live tweeters who were like, Black on Nerds, what are we gonna live tweet? There's a new show coming out. What's gonna be the hashtag? And someone will tweet out a hashtag, and I'll be like, oh, that sounds cool, and then we'll go that hashtag. And it's great. It's a great way to just be a collective. It's a great way to foster and grow relationships and friendships online. And we all know who we are when we're live tweeting. And the hashtags are not just Black Twitter users either. By the way, there's white Twitter users that use them. So it's a great way to just show that the Blur community really enjoys watching a lot of fun, nerdy TV shows.
I know, because, gosh, every time it came time for live tweeting, I was there. I was ready to tag along with you guys and just crack jokes with you guys. It was always hilarious. I see that we have another guest coming in right now. Her name is Omni. Omni? Is she on? Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello?
Hey.
Oh, hello. Hi. Welcome. Chat. She came into a really
Hi, how are y'all?
Awesome.
Doing good.
This is the great part. I'm not sure if you're really into... This is my favorite part. I'm excited.
Oh, gosh.
Because I really want to talk to you about Arrow. I'm sorry. Because I was following your tweets and I see that you're very disappointed. I wasn't able to catch your flash tweets because I always had school during those times, so I cried a little bit. But I knew you were going to always love this song every time you said something negative about Arrow and compared it to Flash. So I knew you already liked Flash in the beginning. I kind of want to get your opinion about Arrow for this season.
I think the problem with Arrow this season... Oh, was that directed towards me or the new guest? I apologize.
That's for everybody. Everybody, this is a collective group talk. I want to talk about... I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time.
You know what I'm going to say. I'll wait.
I'll let you go first because I have some thoughts about Flash. Oh, okay. So Arrow this past season, I think the problem is the story isn't really evolving as quickly as it should. They're doing a lot of these flashbacks, which Arrow's been doing flashbacks since season 1, but it's getting to the point where it seems like when the story, the plot line doesn't have loose ends to tie up, they revert back to the flashback as if that's a way for us to forget that you forgot to tie up this last storyline. So I just have an issue with that. I'm kind of tired of the back and forth that's been happening between Oliver and Felicity. I love both of the characters, but it's starting to get annoying between the two of them. And then Oliver this last season it really is like a big crybaby whiner and always is so defeated when it comes to not being able to be the perfect person in all aspects. Not only can he be this great superhero, but he's got to be able to save the day when it comes to friendships and relationships. And he's always got to blame himself for other people's problems, which can get annoying when that's happening over and over and over again. So I wish they would do more with his character other than that. And it's almost developing into a trope. But, that's been my issue. And then I was very disappointed with Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. I mean, that character is a great character in the comics and in the cartoons, but somehow he just came across as this wimp. So I wasn't at all impressed by him as a villain. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought that he was a villain based off of the actor and the performance that was done in that last season by Ra's al Ghul. So yeah, that's my Arrow season 3 assessment.
My thing with Arrow, it was very emo. It was just a little bit too emotional and brooding and dark, and I was kind of basically over it. So I agree with you.
Yep.
I have a lot of little gripes. The flashbacks were annoying to me after a while because I'm like, don't really care he's in China, guys. I kind of want to see what's going on in the plot. It kind of just ruined the flow between the transitions because I'm like, okay, yeah, he's in China doing this stuff. I know it's supposed to be connected to, well, at the end it kind of made sense towards the end where this is the reason why he's having these flashbacks because it leads to this ending part of the season. But at the same time, like, you're slowing down the whole flow of the show, and this makes me wish that I could fast forward through it, but I can't. And then another thing is I didn't like Laurel. I kind of didn't know why she was there. I understand she's Black Canary, but I felt like her character was really weak, even though she's supposed to be Black Canary now. I kept crying the whole season. She needs a training montage, a really good one, because how did Thea had like trained for 3 months and she became like pretty awesome, and then Laurel just had she needs help, and I hope the next season she could handle it, because I felt like they always had to watch her back every time, and she kind of just slowed them down a lot. So that was another gripe about me with Laura. David knows I kind of don't really like her.
I know.
Nobody likes Laurel.
I do. I'm the odd one that actually was like okay with her, but I'll wait.
No, at first I thought Thea was annoying because she whined a lot until she started, the training. So she wasn't that annoying. Especially with the suit. I love the suit at the end. I was like, yes. And I was like, I want to cosplay that one day, but that's most of my gripes with everything. And then also Oliver and Felicity, the whole, oh my God, I love you. It's so hard. Everything's so hard. And I'm like, okay. Everybody was starting to root for Ray and Felicity for a while. And they kind of got turned off of the Olicity thing, but that's how I feel. David, you have anything you want to rebuttal about the show? Because I know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I do. Okay. Arrow season 3. I was okay with it. Because I basically binged most of it, watching Flash and Arrow back and forth. But I was okay with. Ra's al Ghul's story could have been better. I won't lie, but I was thinking when they introduced Wildcat early on in season 3 that he'll play a bigger role to help Laurel evolve as a character, and when she became Black Canary, it's always a Black Canary and Wildcat. So I was thinking, okay, we'll see more of him, and it's well, where did he go? And then we went to bringing in Ray Palmer. It's this is nice, and it was good to see where they went with him, and I think we'll see more of his development as a character. Although I still want to call him Superman, but I'm okay with that. But overall, season 3 wasn't bad. I kind of liked the China parts to a certain degree because I'm a Amanda Waller fan, and seeing more of her kind of made the ending of season 2 make a little sense of how is Oliver and her okay with each other already? It's well, where did that come from? And that made some sense. So tying up little loose ends, but I won't call the season a bust or a flop. I would say it was okay. It wasn't great. It was okay. That's all I got.
I just felt like it could have came a little bit stronger.
True.
Yeah.
But Flash.
Jamie, I know you're really passionate about Flash. Especially it's only the first season, and everybody's been going crazy Flash, especially me. So, how do you feel about Flash for the first season?
Oh God, it's great. I really, really love the Flash. The dynamic between all the characters is amazing. All of the actors are great performers. One of the things with Arrow, the acting is not that great, but the Flash, all of them are supreme. I mean, you've got Jesse L. Martin, who is amazing in everything he does. And I love seeing his relationship with Grant Gustin, who plays Barry Allen. I love seeing the relationship between Joe West and Barry Allen. It's nothing like I've ever seen on television before. And it's great seeing a black father on television who is not a stereotype, who is not a negative stereotype. So that is so refreshing to see. And I love seeing a computer hacker, who's a Latino. Cisco is like one of my favorite characters on the show. He's amazing. They've got really great villains. The plot is just great. The story, the writing is superb. I mean, there's not much I can say about the Flash that I don't like. And there was some issues that I had before with one of the characters, Iris West. I didn't like her character at the beginning because she wasn't written very well, and that's been a problem with some of these TV shows, especially the comic book shows. They don't know how to write women well, and when they don't write women well, they come off as very annoying, and people don't like them. I think that's what's happened with Laurel. Laurel actually could be a really great character if they wrote her decent. But they make her whiny and they make her very tropey, and then they make her an alcoholic for no reason, and they make her an antagonist to Oliver and all the other characters. And that's what they did with Iris West. They made her an antagonist to Barry Allen. And you don't do that, because when you do that, then of course people are going to be, they're going to have some contempt for that character. But towards the end of the season, they did a really great job of flourishing her role, and she even had a nice moment where she had her point of view, where she was doing the voiceover. We usually hear Barry Allen's voice. This time we heard Iris. So they developed her well towards the end of the season, and they gave her some agency, which is good. So I ended up really liking her character, which was awesome. Because I got a lot of flack from fans for not liking her, and people were dragging me on Twitter and Tumblr about it. But yeah, I love the Flash. It's by far the best comic book show, TV show, aside from Daredevil, on network television right now, cable television.
I agree, because when he first got introduced in Arrow, I already knew, I was like, I'm gonna like this. And I guess that was like their little tester, seeing like, will people bite if we put Barry Allen in it? And people gave good feedback towards it. So when they actually said, hey, we're gonna come out with a Flash show, I was like, huh. I don't know much about Flash, but I just know, based on what we've seen on TV, a little here and there about the depiction of Flash. So when I first started watching the show, I was like, wow, the story is very fun. It has a good flow. It basically has that addicting factor because it's written so well. The characters you get attached to, they develop the characters really well, and it just makes you want more each episode. That's one thing. It was kind of addicting in a sense. So that's one thing I got from Flash. I have really nothing negative about Flash. Anything.
I totally agree, because I caught the season towards the middle, and honestly, it's so well written. When I finally realized that this was the first season, I was like, oh my God, so what are we going to do for the next season? Because it was such an even flow of just, if you could put in all your wishes for a great comic book show, they did it within their first season. And so the thing about Arrow, for me, Arrow takes too much time to like really get into it because of so many different things. But with the Flash, especially with the introduction on Arrow, but when he gets his own show, it's like he goes from 0 to 10,000. It's just like, okay, I can get into this show. Whether I start with the first episode, I think I came in on the 5th episode.
And it was just like, oh gosh, wow. Because at first I was like, oh, great, another comic book show. But when you really watch it, it's so many great things. And for me, I do like the relationships. They are complex in a certain degree, but it's not overwhelming. And I just think it's superb writing for, once again, a first season.
I agree with that.
David?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do agree with that greatly, especially the background behind Wells.
Oh god.
And how
Yeah.
Yes.
God. That was okay. I kind of knew it was coming, but it's just I was like, I knew it was Wells, but I was like, let me wait for the development of what they're gonna do with this, because I don't know what they're gonna do with this, but I don't want to assume anything yet because it'll be too obvious.
Because
yeah, because when Wells, oh, go ahead.
Oh, and I was saying, do you guys feel the same?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Oh, all I was gonna say was that it's like I'm somewhat familiar with Flash, like reading some comics and stuff in the past. So like when the show started, like in the first two episodes, like first few episodes, they're killing off villains. I'm like, but that was a good villain. And then they start saving them. I was like, okay, thank you. But the whole Harrison Wells thing, it threw me for a loop. I was like, but isn't Reverse Flash Eobot Thawne? I'll wait. And then like the whole scenes of how like the first time you see Gideon and him in the secret room, I'm like, all right, is CW pulling like I don't want to throw another network under the bus, but are they pulling some other thing of like we're just going to rename a random character and you know who it's supposed to be, or we're not going to do that, and they finally showed like what happened to the real Harrison Wells. I was like, this is even better. Like you all got me on board. And I was thinking, is it Eddie going back in time and making himself Reverse Flash? But that didn't happen. So, but, I liked it.
With the Wells, yeah. With the Wells character, for me, I was like, oh my god. And then as more things became revealed, I was like, oh my god, because of the fact that I didn't come from the comic books and knowing about the Flash. Honestly, I know Flash from the old school cartoons, and I wasn't like, oh yeah, I really want to watch this. But the whole way that they're doing the Reverse Flash is going to be kind of interesting. How that's going to cross over into, once again, this new season, because like the bombs that they drop with the Wells character, that's something that you see in movie plots, and it's like you reach the plateau, the cliffhanger, and it's just like, but then you realize, wait a minute, this is only like the 9th episode, and I know there's so many shows going forth. Like, oh my god, what else are they gonna do?
Because I had one friend that he really thought that Eddie was going to be Booster Gold. Like he swore from like the first episode that it was Booster Gold.
Everybody has their theories about what they're expecting. The only thing about Flash is like I didn't want to state the obvious, but the obvious did happen. So that was the only thing that kind of I just wanted to see how it was going to unfold and just not be one of those people who just like I guess everything right type show. So just to conclude everything between Arrow and Flash, I just want everybody's expectations for next season. What are you looking for, and what do you hope to see within the next seasons?
Well, I hope to see a better storyline with Arrow. I know they're bringing in some new characters. They're actually bringing in, I just posted it today, Rutina Wesley, who's known as Tara Thornton on True Blood, and she's also on Hannibal. She's coming in as a new character. I don't know who she's going to be, but I'm excited to see another Black woman on the show. And then I think there's another character that's going to be like a love interest to Thea. So that's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between Thea and Roy. If Roy's because I think Roy left. I guess he's probably going to come back, and maybe there's going to be some animosity brewing between them. But yeah, I hope that they streamline their plots a little bit better, and that it's not just haphazard and they're all over the place with all of these subplots, and just focus on one story at a time and not try to do the whole flashback all over again. As far as the Flash is concerned, I'm just going to wait and see what they bring us, because I've been very happy so far. Every single character that they've brought in, every villain that they brought in. I want to see the Trickster again. I really loved seeing Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna let them do their thing, and I don't even want to put expectations, because it's probably going to be better than what I would expect anyway. So there you have it.
For me, pretty much, I'm hoping with Arrow that they don't jump the shark without doing really strong story development. So that's like the one thing with them. And with the Flash, I just want them to keep on shocking my sugar, because it's just a really great show. So I'm kind of like you, no expectations. If you hear a large squeal during the first episode of the second season, that's just me, because I'm overly excited.
Well, my expectations for Arrow, I'm just curious about, because every season had like a main villain. I'm not really sure who the villain. From discussions with me and David, you always told me that it possibly could be the Hive. I don't know who, but I'm just kind of going to walk into it like, yeah, let's see if you guys come up with more of the better flow. Come on, like you do the tag team with Flash. I feel like you guys should have like some type of consistency with the story writing where it's engaging for the viewer. So I'm hoping that it's going to be engaging for me this year, and I'm looking out for the villain. I wonder who he's going to come against and how he's going to come back again. And for Arrow, it just bothered me. It's that cliffhanger where he was running up in the black hole, and I'm just like, want to know what's going to happen after that. I mean, if we read the comic books, there's so many different looks of where it's going to end up being, but I just want to see how that's going to look out with him going through the black hole, and this whole time loop thing of all the flashes is going to give us a headache. So I'm looking forward to that.
For me, I think I just, for the sake of Flash, like I'm just want to see like how we're going to introduce like Jay Garrick, and if we can get like other Flashes, like was it Wally West, I think, and maybe some other ones, and maybe Impulse. Wally West is Impulse, and like for Arrow, if they do the Hive storyline, because I think there was like some subtle nods like throughout season 3, but it was like very random things, and the one thing from season 3 that I would like to see come back is like Oliver had this conversation with the woman who was pregnant with his son, and I'm like, are we going to bring that back at all, or is it like a little throwaway thing?
Oh yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
Because there's this nice meme of like, was it Batman and Oliver with their sons, and I was like, yeah, can we talk about that again? But for Flash, like, it reminded me of like just watching Smallville seasons of like, let's end it on a high note, and we'll come back and have that nice payoff for like one episode and just go a completely different direction. And because like when Wales died, or Reverse Flash died, I was thinking, shouldn't all this be technically erased? And then when the black hole popped back up, I was like, yeah, I guess that's gonna happen. Like, because he died, none of this really should exist. So if they flip the script like that and just make it all brand new, that would be interesting. But to continue the whole Flash Arrow crossover thing, some things have to stay the same, I guess.
Right. And nothing is what it seems anyway, because of that time-space continuum that we are in with the Flash. So when you think someone's dead, they're not really.
True.
And vice versa. And I forgot to mention Wally West. thank you for bringing up Wally West. Yeah, I'm super excited for that because they did announce the actor that's going to be playing him, and I think that it's going to be awesome to see him. I remember seeing a lot of Kid Flash on Young Justice, so big fan of Wally West. And also, I forgot to mention that I didn't watch the show, but John Constantine, he's going to reprise his role in Arrow, so that'll be interesting to watch.
Interesting. Yeah.
I saw that today too. I was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Even if it's just like one episode, like still it would say that universe still exists.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I'm thinking because now that they have that Vixen show going to be starting on CWC app, could we actually see Vixen show up for real in like a live action film?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I had posted that I was kind of hoping Rutina Wesley may be considered for Vixen, but it looks like, even though it hasn't been officially announced, it looks like they may have the actress that's voicing Vixen in the CWC series to possibly play her. But yeah, I really hope sooner than later we get our live action Vixen.
I do too. Well, in keeping track of time, I do want to say thank you, Jamie, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I really had a great time.
And like before we like release you to the interwebs, that you might want to like plug anything about yourself and Black Girl Nerds.
Just to close out, blackgirlnerds.com is the website. You can follow me on Twitter at blackgirlnerds. All the social media networks, Facebook, we're on Pinterest, Tumblr. Also, feel free to support us in any way you can. We have a donate button on the website. Also, we have a store through Zazzle. It's zazzle.com/blurredgasm. A lot of merchandise with the BGN logo on it, so feel free to purchase a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, and you can rock it at your next con. And speaking of cons, I will be at New York Comic Con in October, and also coming up in this September, next month, I'll be at Dragon Con. So if you're going to be at any of those events, look forward to meeting you. And also locally, if you're in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, there's a anime con called NicoCon. So I will be a panelist there. And that's about it.
All right, and I think I have one more question for you. Like your podcast, like, are you all still posting them like on iTunes, or is it just like SoundCloud now?
I completely forgot to plug my podcast. We're on hiatus, so it's like out of sight, out of mind. So the podcast starts up in September, and we are on. Okay, so the podcast started on Blog Talk Radio. And we're now with TWIB. TWIB is the acronym for This Week in Blackness by Elon James White. If you listen to the old episodes through Blog Talk, they're all on iTunes.
Okay.
The new episodes through TWIB are actually on SoundCloud. So if you go to soundcloud.com/blackgirlnerds, you can listen to all of our new episodes there. You can also go to the Black Girl Nerds website and click on the podcast link. And then also, if you want to go to TWIB's website, it's twib.fm. You can listen to our podcast there. So that's now our new stream for the podcast. And hopefully sooner than later, I am looking to book somebody that's a very special guest on our first podcast back. I'll keep you posted, but let's just say that person works on one of the shows we were talking about tonight.
Awesome.
So... fingers crossed for that. Yeah, fingers crossed for that, and hopefully we'll get them on. And if not, we will have a whole bunch of really great new episodes and new shows lined up. I've already booked guests for our next shows within the next couple of months, and we're going to talk about some really great topics and invite some really important guests. So, yes, soundcloud.com/blackgirlnerds is where you can listen to the podcast.